So what do I mean when I say the three parts of a quarter note, or playing on the three parts of the quarter note, or being able to? So a quarter note gets one beat, right? And we all know that. But then jazz musicians in particular can play in different places on the quarter note. So as the quarter note is moving through time, certain musicians are playing on the different parts of that quarter note, and that's what actually gives a deeper swing feel. So for example, here's a quarter note, and we can play on three parts of that. So if we were going to play laid back, it would be here. If we're going to play like classical musicians, see, that's not negative, it's just the way it is. You would play more in the center of the beat. And if you're trying to push things forward or anticipate without really anticipating too far over, but just enough to push things and keep things exciting, you would be here. Now, the more you listen to jazz and the more you try to listen to jazz, the more this can really start to make sense. So it's something that you want to try to do, is to do a lot of listening, because listening is where you learn the most, the best. The best thing to do for playing music is to listen to it, because in the end, it's an art form of the ear. So you want to be able to recognize these different places. One of the things that we can do is to recognize, if we were just playing classical, we would use a metronome. And so here's our quarter note. We're going to slow that down so we can get a quarter note. And that's about it. There's my quarter note. That's straight on, that's the center of the beat, that's where the quarter note is, and that would be how you play in a symphony. Everybody wants to be playing solid, and that's how that happens, and that's how people learn. So if you're playing forward or back on that, you're actually playing wrong. You need to be playing always precisely with a good, strong quarter note in most cases. So modern classical musicians are learning the benefit of playing on the different places of the head, and so they can actually change the intensity of a recording or of a performance by actually playing on the front or the back, especially in large groups. So I have to go let my dog in. I'll be right back. Okay, so in any case, back to this discussion. That was on the center of the quarter note. Now, if I'm going to, hey guys, good girl. If I'm going to play on the front of the quarter note, then it's going to sound like almost like I'm rushing, but it's intentional. So here's the front of the quarter note. Whoops, sorry, that was eighth notes. Now, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, so I'm going to have to check after I'm done with this demo, and if it works, great. But you could hear a slight flam. I'm a little bit ahead of that, and it's intentional. It gives a push to this. Notice that gives some intensity to it, and I was moving hoping that would kind of help you hear what's happening there. That's what happens when people are listening to music with things on the front of the quarter note. It actually causes an intensity in the listening, and it's really cool to be able to do all of this. So again, this is something you want to learn how to do and play with and experiment with. And it can take a while to get that together. So it's not something you get overnight, but it's something you can keep working on, because it's an extra little thing you have to express yourself that really is enjoyable. And then the last thing is like what bass players do. If you want to have a nice, what we say, laid back groove, this is where you're behind the beat. And it's not because people are stoned or because they're lazy. It's actually intentional. Like good musicians actually will put that bass line on the back of the beat, as it's called. And it really, brings that home. Because the reason it works is because it's, as you heard on my front of the quarter note, they were all consistent. So it wasn't a little bit here, a little bit there, and pulling back and forth. It was very consistent, and that's why it grooves. It's because you're doing this steady. It's a way of life. It's a way of thinking. So a laid back quarter note, is behind the click. You can hear it's just right there in the back of the beat. It's in the back of the quarter note. It's got a nice laid back feel. If that was a bass, that would be just right there. But it was consistent. It was solid quarter notes, but that was just a little ahead. And the bass was just a little behind. And a good bass player wanting to give that laid back feel in a blues would be doing just that. And so that's a great place to learn to live or to practice, so you get the feel. It's nice when you can do that with chords. You can just lay back on the beat as well, and it really helps. If somebody's playing on the front of the beat in the band and you're playing on the back, then it really gives you that swing feel. Or maybe your drummer is playing, really laid back on the ride cymbal, or playing back on the kick drum in the ride with the bass player, and you could play on the front. But we'll do the front in a second. But just playing laid back is a lot of fun, So you can see and hear and feel. I'm thinking. So it's different than when you're playing when you're just improvising. You don't think as much. You kind of just let things happen based on what's happening around you. But I definitely wanted to deliver that properly to you. So I was thinking a little bit more, which takes away from the accuracy of your hands, because you're a little behind with the speed of thought because you're thinking, but most of all trying to land laid back. So that's what I wanted to deliver to you. So then you could practice that. And then you get to that point where you don't actually have to think about it. last one, I got there early. Because that's always a great way to punctuate things. So now, if I was playing on the center of the quarter note, it's right with that. And that would be... So it's not bad, it's just, you can probably tell it's really not grooving. It's not pushing, it's not holding back, it's just there. The lines are okay, but it's just not, you know, there's nothing going on. It's just like right where it belongs. This works really well with classical music, or it works really well at faster tempos. It works really well if your left hand is pushing on the quarter note or laid back and you play linear, and then you might have play on the center of the quarter note for an effect. But it is an effect. So then the next thing is the front of the quarter note. And you can hear that's just ahead of the quarter note. And my right hand was actually playing laid back. So just a tiny little demo there of feel, and you get a better idea if you actually listen to some albums, listen to jazz musicians, and a whole band. There's not a lot of options to give you a great demo like I would like to, because the good demos are going to be found when you hear the relationship between a bass player and a drummer, and the relationship between the rhythm section guys in chords, like for example guitar and piano. In my case, where I play laid back, it's more in terms of voicings and holding back, kind of like what I learned to do playing Chopin's music or rubato, where I would really hold back the downbeat so it gives that powerful landing when you get there. For example, if I'm playing just blues chords. So I alternated a little bit of pushing at times for accent and staying laid back. This is where we play on all the parts of the quarter note, and you learn to be able to just kind of do that at will by separating them, and also a lot of listening. The front of the quarter note, the center of the quarter note, and the back of the quarter note. There's all three really good places to live, and you can get busy living at will any of these three places. And I will see you next time. God bless you.